Welcome to Untold, the business podcast bringing you the best kept secrets of Utah. Small business in Utah is dynamic and a major driver of economic growth. Utah is the number one state in small business growth over the past 25 years. And about half of employment in Utah is driven by small businesses. Untold brings you the up-close, personal stories from amazing Utah businesses. With me today is one of those businesses. Chase Dalton is the founder and CEO of SiliconSigns. Chase, I would love to hear did you just wake up one day and decide I wanted to start a sign company? But at first I'd like to hear how you got started in it. But I saw that you're in early 2025, you already had bookings for 3 times your 2024 sales. This is amazing growth. Would love to hear about how you got started and what's led to your current situation of fast growth.
Okay, well, there's the whole episode if I just talk through that. There's a it's been a long time coming. Yeah, so we started in 2018. That's when the company was founded. So in April here, well, yeah, in a couple of weeks we'll be coming up on 7 years here in business. And
Congrats.
it's been a roller coaster and a whirlwind and a huge learning opportunity for me. But yeah, starting out, I right out of college, I started an outdoor advertising company, and so by nature of that, I needed to learn about signage, and so I went to the trade shows and things like that. And I spent about a year in that business, and it didn't gain much traction. But about a year into that, I got a big contract, or what I thought was a big contract at the time, with a local university here, for some school bus ads. That was the nature of the business. It was about $15,000, I think. And a couple weeks after signing the contract, I got a call from a new athletic director. The old one who'd signed the contract had taken a position elsewhere. He called me and said, "Hey, Chase, I want out of this contract." And I'm thinking, okay, I can't just let you out of the contract. I'm relying on that. That's a big deal for us. Why? Why do you want out of the contract? He said, "Well, I have tens of thousands of students on campus here. I want to advertise to them, get them to the games, not people out in the community necessarily. I want to start here at home." I said, "Okay, so how are you going to do that then?" He said, "I'm going to post banners all around campus. That's going to show the schedule, the time for each sport all around campus." Like, awesome. Can I switch that contract to banners and just sell you banners? You're like, that would be awesome. So I had already built a wholesale relationship with a printer and ended up delivering banners to him over the course of the next 4 to 6 weeks. And I made a 75% profit on those banners. So, I mean, I walked away with, I think, $11,000 or $12,000 in my pocket,
Nice.
with no overhead there. Said, okay, I think this is the business I want to be in. So I pivoted at that moment to start selling signs versus advertising. And it was helpful because it's a lot of the same buyers, right? We're working in the ad
Sure.
department, marketing department. And so it was an easy transition. There was a local company here in Utah that I had hired to do some wholesale printing for me. And there was one time where I was picking it up late and the owner was the only one there. And he got me the signs, rung me up. And he offered me a job working for his company. I was like, "No, I'm good. I got a good thing going here." But as we talked more, the owners were older and they were wanting to retire, maybe sell the business. And I was young and ambitious. Still am, but I was younger and ambitious then too. And I thought, okay, this might be a good opportunity for me. I like the sign industry. This is a chance to learn more about it and maybe take over or purchase this business someday. So I did. I made that jump and I started working sales for them. After about a little over a year, the promises that were made to me were not coming to fruition there. A tale as old as time. And I decided to leave. And the production manager there, James, who's now the co-founder of SiliconSigns, he was the production manager there for about 12 years. We left together. We started SiliconSigns. And about a week into it, we were served with a lawsuit
Oh, yeah.
for a non-compete. And so immediately we were, it was more than just this excitement of starting a business. We were now fighting for our lives and our livelihood and our futures. We didn't have a chance to turn back. Um, and which is kind of the irony, I think, of the situation coming from our opponents there, is that I think they were trying to put us out of business, but really they just backed us into a corner to where we couldn't quit.
They burned the boats.
They burned the boats for us.
Yeah.
We didn't have to. So we, I called my first two phone calls were my dad and my father-in-law, who have always been great mentors to me, and they were both entrepreneurs. And I said, hey, I just got sued. What do I do? And these guys, between the two of them, they've probably been sued 50 times, a piece.
Mm-hmm.
And they both told me about the same thing. They said, beat them in business. Focus on your business, make as much money. That's just the nature of the beast. Lawyers are expensive. They're trying to squeeze you out. Just don't let them. And so that's what we did. We went to work, and it was tight. Legal fees are expensive. Starting a company is expensive. And we were trying to still pay our rents and mortgages and support our families at the same time. But we had a lot of motivation to do so. We couldn't quit. We couldn't back down. And one of the things that helped us a lot right at the beginning was we landed a big national contract. Just a few months into business, we got a contract with a public company. Actually, a Utah. They have a big Utah presence or headquarters down here. It's called PetIQ, and they're opening vet clinics all over the country.
Right.
And we got a big contract with them to open 50 clinics, do the science for 50 clinics. It was several $100,000 contract, and we didn't have the money to even execute on this contract. We didn't even have credit to execute on this contract. Mm-hmm. We ended up going to a private investor. We borrowed $150,000 from him over 3 months. Because we figured that was enough to get us started to buy, in the billings that would come in over the next 3 months would help pay back that money with interest. And we did it. But James had to put up his house. He owned a house at the time. I didn't. He had to put up his house for collateral on that. And so we busted our butts. We flew around the country doing installs. We learned the logistics of what executing on a national contract means, with the permitting and the outsource installations and shipping and approvals and whatnot. And that cash helped us, one, pay off the loan, but also helped us grow and pay our legal fees along the way at the same time. And so in that first year of business, we had hired just one additional employee, and we matched the revenue of the company we were up against, of our former employers, who'd been around for 25 years. And so the advice, we took that advice to heart to beat them in business, and we did. We really felt like we did. We ended up,
what a trial by fire, right? So you were dealing with legal issues, huge risk, giant learning curve, right? As you're operating now interstate, and all the logistics and all the execution of that. That's amazing.
Yeah. It was a very interesting and trying time for us. I'm sure we'll come back to some of the emotional toll that took and some of the challenges there. But yeah, it did two things. One, we learned what it takes to be a national sign company, and not only from a logistics and skill and knowledge standpoint, but also, we had a blue chip name that we could go sell from. That's the hardest thing about getting into this national, sales sign company world, is what makes, we have to convince people that we can handle the volume of their business. And so to come and say we did 50 locations in 3 months, with just the two of us, it gives us a lot of firepower to go after. We ended up settling that lawsuit in 2020. And then we just took off. We were freed financially, emotionally from this. We ended up scaling. We started hiring more at that point. We weren't playing it too safe like we felt like we were before, because we didn't know whatever we built up, it could be taken from us.
Right.
And so without us, it wasn't a conscious thing, but we were playing it safe at looking in hindsight. But we immediately scaled to about 3 million in revenue. And then we stayed there for 3 years, up until even just this last year, 2024. So that was 2024, 23, and 22. We got there and we stayed there. And it was confusing. I was wondering what was wrong with us. Obviously it's a different 3 million each year, but it was still the same. It just still felt like the same challenges and
Just
kind of
plateaued.
losing. Right. Yeah. And you mentioned this before we started, but one of our core values is grow or die. And we weren't growing, and we were dying. But not that the company was dying, but like we were kind of dying on the inside. Like we were losing the passion for the growth and the innovation, because I think we were getting a little bit complacent. I think there were times where James and I started investing in other things because we were thinking, okay, we have this going now, let's maybe diversify a little bit. And those things fell flat. And it took away focus from what we were trying to build as well. And so the great, what we took away from that and from that learning experience is that we need to go all in to what we're building here. We are not at a point where it's time to diversify. It is time to double down on what we're doing. And so, which brings us to today, right? We were stuck at this 3 million, and then we made it. It was late 2023 when we kind of started seeing the writing on the walls, like this isn't going anywhere. And we started we made this decision that we're going all in to be a national player, and specifically in the franchise space.
So you niched, that was like a niche decision to focus on one part of your business as a growth engine?
Yeah, exactly. Right. Because you can be a local sign company that just, does the local bakeries and schools. And we were dancing in that space, and it really took up probably half our revenue. Or you could be a national sign company, but it's really difficult to be both because they're very different business models and verticals, and requires a different type of people and staff to do that. And so we were straddling that line because of the comfort that comes from the local sign company and the cash flow that comes from there versus going all in with big national contracts and big sales efforts. But we decided to go all in. We made a big sales push. I started going to trade shows around the country, and that was extremely uncomfortable for me. I'm a good salesperson because I'm passionate about our product. But I'm not really a good salesperson as far as building sales systems and follow-ups and funnels and using the softwares. And we've never had an outbound sales effort ever. Everything has been organic and incoming because we just want to do good work for people. So in late 2023, we started making this sales push specifically for a national sign, to be a national sign company that focuses on the franchise space.
I have a question. Question about this. So I want to come back to where you're going all in on the national side, but when you got hit with that lawsuit, right? So you guys were clearly all in, right, at that point where your partner even refinanced his house or put his house on the line, right, to continue the business. But then you found yourself not all in 3 years later. What do you think happened? Like, what got you off track, or what got you to that space from all in to not all in and now all in again?
That's a really good question. It's something I've been thinking about recently, actually, because it kind of feels like it's against my nature, right? As I had a successful athletic career. In high school, I competed at the collegiate level, and I was actually on a couple of U.S. teams as well for track and field. I was a decathlete. My goal was to make it to the Olympics, and so everything was always up and up and up. Always had to build on the previous year, and I had very clear metrics to go off of. and I had 10 events to do it with.
Yeah.
Um, so I've thought a lot about that. What made me take my foot off the gas? Because it certainly wasn't conscious. Um, and here's what I think it was. I think that I believe that all the greats have to have a good balance of cheerleaders and haters. And at first, we had a real hater, a real enemy that was trying to take our
Trying to
business,
kill you.
our
Mhm.
livelihood, and they were even accusing us of criminal acts that could have landed, taken our freedom. Um, and so they were coming at us, and we were fighting for our lives. It was, so to speak, right? Our livelihoods. And we were fighting passionately for our lives, right? With that kind of passion. We weren't just protecting money, it felt like. Um, when that, enemy subsided, I guess, we had a lot of cheerleaders, but we kind of lost the adversary.
Mhm.
Um, and I don't know, did you see the Michael Jordan documentary that came out during COVID, the Last Dance?
Yeah,
Uh,
parts of it. Hmm.
yeah, I thought it was so interesting that Michael Jordan, he thrived off of that negative energy, kind of the haters, to a point where he even manufactured some of it, and he would make up stories just to
Yeah.
to fuel his fire and to fuel his team. And I thought that was really interesting because yeah, we lost our adversary, and now looking back, I realized that like our enemy wasn't real and tangible, but it was complacency. And that's the one
Wow.
that creeps up on you,
Hmm.
because you don't see it coming, you don't feel it, um, and so that's I think what the real that's the answer to your question.
Okay.
Why did we lose that fire? Is because we allowed complacency. We got comfortable, and even maybe even scared, right? That's why we
Mm.
started investing in other things and putting attention otherwise. Like, man, we have all our eggs in this one basket. Is that the right thing to do? Is that the best thing to do? Um, and that's advice I'd give to any entrepreneur, is that if all your eggs are in one basket, then keep putting eggs in that basket. That's what entrepreneurship is.
Hmm.
Um, at least in the early stages, when the business is thriving, you can step back and become an investor in that business, and then become an investor in other places. But when you're a founder and you're trying to build something, I believe that you have to go all in. You have to put all your eggs in one basket, and you're betting on your idea and you're betting on yourself. That's what's beautiful about founders, is that we're not afraid to bet on ourselves, because it's a safe bet. It's a safe investment. Um, and we stopped doing that.
Wow.
Um,
Wow. So yeah, what a great answer. So then 3 years later, right, you find yourself again at that crossroads and decide to go all in. Right? What was now you don't have an opponent, all right? So what was the mechanism? What was it that flipped the switch for you and your partner to go all in again?
there, I'd say the most tangible thing was that we found ourselves with another big opportunity, another big contract,
Oh,
that we're in the middle of. We're doing a rebrand program for a company, and we're doing about 600 locations this year for them.
wow.
Signage rebrands for them, interior and exterior, which is wildly different from what we've done up to this point in our national sign company journey. We've done, between maybe we work with companies that are between 10, opening maybe 10 to 70 locations a year. And even that is very hyper growth, like to get up into those 50, 60, 70 a year. You think about that, you're opening one a week or multiple a week. Um, and that's what's the niche that we found, is with these emerging brands. And so one of these brands that we worked with up to this point is now rebranding, and so we were a
Mm.
natural fit to come in and help with this rebrand. And so we're doing 600 in a year.
Wow.
In order for that, and with that volume comes tighter margins as well, margins that we're uncomfortable with, that we don't really know how to run a business off of, frankly.
Okay.
And that is also forcing us into a place where we needed to build out that foundation to handle that. because it came as a wave. So
Wow.
that was we brought on a new partner, a sales partner last summer. Um, and we talk more about that later. But he's building out a sales team. We hired a director of operations that has 20 years of national sign experience as a VP at another big player in the game. A director of project management, and then other people with national sign company experience. Up to this point, we hadn't done any of that.
Okay.
It was just us learning as we go, and then hiring people and training them to our level of knowledge. But that was a point where we said, no, we need to hire expensive, high skill, high knowledge, experienced people in this space in order for this to be successful. And that came with great level of investment. And so that it was a point for us where we had to decide, are we going to go all in and take this contract and win this contract or not? Because if we did, I mean, this contract is making up around 60% of our revenue for this year. Very dangerous for a company of any size. But as you get bigger, any percentage of revenue that a company takes up, it adds that level of risk. And so we decided we were going to go all in. We were going to win the contract. We're going to build out the foundation of SiliconSigns to handle the contract, along with technology overhauls. So that people and technology and processes, but also understanding that we were not interested in letting this contract just be a cocaine hit, and then just drop right back down to our level, because we were done. James and I knew we were not interested in running a company that is stalling out anymore. It's against our values. It's against our core values of grow or die being one of them. So this is one of those moments. Are we going to grow or are we going to die? So we've done it. We're in the middle of it. We've even said we're putting all of our chips on the table. We've invested heavily into this contract, but also determined to make this an opportunity to scale our company. Meaning we are going to get there and we're going to stay there and we're going to grow from there, which will include processes and people and technology, and building the engine that allows us to grow from there instead of fall back down to where we've been.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, great example of forward looking, right? Kind of alignment and using the opportunity to fund the future. That's fantastic. Yeah. You have mentioned a couple of times your core values, and I'm curious to know more about those. You mentioned grow or die. Excuse me. You mentioned grow or die. What are your other core values, and how are those playing out in 2025?
That's an interesting question, because as you scale a company, what I'm learning is that the hardest thing to maintain is culture. As we've expanded our team and brought on people who have been at big companies who have done bigger things than us and have done better things than us, it's been very difficult to say no, to remember kind of who we are and where we came from, and to not let their other company cultures creep into it. So your question of how is that playing a role in 2025 is actually quite timely. I actually was talking to one of our, we call them our kind of our OG employees, people who've been around, near the beginning. She's been here with us for a little over 3 years now, I think. And I was just talking to her, and she's like, I think our core values are gone. Like, I think they're dead. I don't see them anymore. That's hard to hear as a CEO of a company whose one of my primary responsibilities is to protect our culture and to train on our culture. And so I've been reflecting on that a lot. And we actually had a town hall with the whole company yesterday, and we mentioned it, of what are we trying to accomplish? Well, we're trying to scale our company, to a certain dollar amount, and we're trying to stay there, but we're trying to do that while protecting our quality and our reputation. And also not forgetting who we are and what got us here. What was the magic that got us to that $3 million mark?
Mm-hmm.
What was the magic that the founders brought to get us there? Why did the customers love us? but then also, what is it about the founders that kept us there? What are our weaknesses that left us at 3 million? And how do we solve for that and expand from there? And so it's been a topic of conversation, because I haven't lost my core values, of course, but I'm clearly not doing a good job at communicating them and enforcing them, or making sure that we are all on the same page. Because as we're looking forward to this growth, you kind of get caught up in the fairy tale of it. It's like, oh, I'm bringing in all these people and money, revenue, get growth, scale. And then we're like thinking about, okay, are we expanding into other verticals and everything? And I had to step back and say, like, and just remember, what was it about us that got us here? Because we can't lose sight of that, or else we lose our company, we lose our identity. We're just like every other sign company out there, because there was magic that got us to 3 million without an ounce of sales effort. And so some of those other, oh, sorry, you're gonna ask a question.
Yeah. You mentioned your personal values, right? And that the values of the founders was the recipe for success early on. And you created values for the company. Where do you feel like, as you've grown, that maybe things have gotten off track? What was that employee referring to, of where maybe things have gotten off track and you're misaligned now?
Yeah. And these are such good questions, because they're just so timely about what we're going through as a company right now. Specifically, what she was referring to is how we are treating our customer and how we are talking about our customer internally. One of our core values is partnership. And part of that definition is that we prioritize people over profits. We prioritize the customer's success and their experience over our bottom dollar. I believe that profit is an output, right? That revenue is an output. That the driving force is the customer journey and the customer experience. Then we work backwards from that. And she said something. She was like, I wish you could be a fly on the wall in one of our department meetings and hear how some of the people are talking about our customers. Like that they're almost like they're a nuisance, and they're a hurdle that's standing in their way. And I understand that there's a place for commiseration and for venting, because project management is a tough gig. Especially I think in the sign industry, particularly where things move quickly and people are very anxious about their signs and their identity and having that sign up. They just feel like as soon as that sign's up, people are going to be walking through their door, begging them to take their money. And so they get really anxious about it. And so it is a tough thing. I know it personally. I did it. I carried it on my shoulders for several years as the sole project manager of the company. And so I understand that. But she, rightly so, she was pointing out that the customers are our heroes and we need to talk about them like they're our heroes. And because the attitudes that we have behind closed doors are going to seep into how we treat them. And within the last week, I'd actually had a conversation with two of our top leaders that are in the project management and operations space. And I asked them both the same question. Are we logistics managers first and customer success managers second, or the other way around? And they both answered me that we're logistics managers. And the reason why I said, because if we do a good job, the customer is going to be happy. And they are so close. They're almost right.
There's just a nuance there, right?
Exactly. And that's the point. The words we use matter. The language we use is important. And the nuance matters in this, that we are trying to create an experience for our customers, a memorable experience for our customers. Step one of that is making sure that we have good logistics and good operations, that the sign is up on time, that it's high quality, that it's a good price, that and that we're being very communicative and responsive to them along the way. But what I explained to them is that if we go through the pathway of logistics and find the customer experience through logistics, we are going to, one, end up doing things that we shouldn't be doing, or two, doing things or not doing things that we should be doing. And so I think that it's this small little thing, almost just in language and nuance, that has big implications on the culture and on who we want to be and the experience that we're trying to create for our customers.
Well, yeah. I mean, values create clarity. They create that ability for people to know the right answer, right, intuitively. And it seems like you're kind of on that place where, logistics matter, but the feeling that you create for your customers, right, comes through that value, not from the nuts and bolts, right, of the experience. So they will feel how, whether your company's a true partner or not, not based on, sometimes even when your logistics suck,
right,
because of how you are able to manage that relationship, right?
Yeah, the example we brought up was Chick-fil-A. Said, okay, if you order a chicken sandwich from Chick-fil-A and they are fast, right? There's a train of 20 cars, but you still get through in a few minutes, and they say, "My pleasure," when you say thank you, and they make you feel like $1 million, and you roll up and you get a cold, undercooked chicken sandwich. All the other stuff doesn't matter. And so that's where they're coming from. It's like, we still have to execute, which in a way, I love that my operations people are thinking that way. Let's execute at a high level. Yes.
Yeah.
But we're also responsible to maintain a culture and to remember the magic that got us there. And when I say magic, what I think that is, when I think about the magic that I brought in sales and project management, and why the customers loved working with me, is not just because I got the sign up on time and that it was a high quality product, but is because I truly cared about their plight and their experience. I understood that these are franchisees that are putting everything on the line to open this business. These are not seasoned execs. These are not MBAs and investors. These are operators who have quit their jobs or emptied a 401k or refinanced their house to go all in here. And they do believe that if I build it, they will come. That if I put once that sign is on the wall, I have identity, I have a name, I have a face that people know. It's how they communicate their brand with the public. And I understand the anxiety that comes along with that. And so when things do go wrong, it's not that's construction. Tough luck. Things happen.
Yeah.
It does come from a place of hospitality, and compassion toward their experience. It's not just a logistics. It's they're working with someone who they like and trust and respect. And that's the magic that, as we're scaling, we're losing sight of as a company. And it's my job to get back on the rails. That we are not a sign company. We are not in the sign industry. We are in the hospitality industry. We are curating an experience for the customers, and that's what makes them not want to go anywhere else and tell their customers. That's why we got to the point where we got to without an ounce of sales. And so if we can remember that and still do that, and now with our new partner Tyler building a sales team and making a national outreach, we can build on that. I really feel like the sky's the limit for us.
Awesome. Great. Question back, you've talked about your job a number of times. So, and that you started, early on, you had an athletics career. A lot of people point toward athletics as a formative experience in their leadership. I'm curious how that's been for you.
Yeah, it's interesting. A lot of people do think that. They think, okay, I was a successful athlete, so I will be a good leader and a successful business owner. And in a lot of ways, they could be right. But I was a track athlete. It was me between two lines, or in a circle, in a ring. It was me against the clock, me against the tape measure, me against the bar. I didn't have a team to rely on for my success or a team to blame for my failure. we were all running in the same weather with the same, officials. Um, and I was very much an individual contributor. So being a successful athlete, a successful decathlete, made me a successful individual contributor. I understood that the harder I work, the more results I'll get. The more dedication and focus that I put into it, the more successful I'll be.
Yep.
And so if you read any leadership books, that's kind of the antithesis of leadership is I'm going to do everything. I'm going to do it myself, and everybody else get out of my way. And
Team
so,
of
yeah,
one.
it's actually, what's that?
A team of one, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so in a lot of ways, it's actually been detrimental to my leadership. I've had to overcome that to be a good leader rather than use it. I early on, I just figured that, hey, if I'm leading the charge, I will lead by example. I will model the behavior and the passion and the skill that I want our staff to be exemplifying, and that will be enough. And as long as I, tell them what we're going after and pointing at what we're trying to accomplish, that the rest should take care of themselves if I have the right people. What that the result of that is, one, I hired the wrong people, and two, I lost some good people, because I wasn't handing over the reins. I wanted to be the top dog, right? I wanted to set the pace, and that actually brought us success early on. But as we tried to scale and failed at scaling, it was because every time something didn't happen the way that I needed it done or wanted it done or would have done it or the way I would have done it myself, I pushed them out of the way and did it myself. Every time a customer was unhappy, I jump in, solve the problem, get it back on the rails, and take that project manager off the account and finish it myself. Because I took, for one, it's because I took it so personally. I took a negative customer experience so personally. It hurt my feelings so bad as a founder whose my reputation and the company's reputation were so intertwined that I couldn't separate them. And so I for one, I had to learn to separate my ego from the success of the business and from the customer experience.
Okay.
I think that was step one, and I'm almost there. I still have some work to do, but also allowing people to get to where I didn't get to where I'm at without failure, and without learning. And I've had to learn to recognize that everyone needs their chance. And so instead of being a top dog, that's setting the pace, I've had to learn to step aside and let other people be the pace setter and coach them from the side and point out the vision and make sure they're pointed at the right thing. And giving them the tools and resources to do that. And sometimes that includes allowing them to fail or doing things the way that I wouldn't have done it myself. But still, maybe it's their way to climb the mountain, but still climbing the mountain nonetheless.
When you were competing, did you have a coach?
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
And what lessons have you taken from what maybe what you observed that person or persons doing in your role today? Anything different than what you've already mentioned?
Yeah, so my wife is actually a head track coach at a local high school here.
Oh.
And she pulls me out to coach every once in a while. I'm actually a registered coach there. And so I'll come out to the meets and to practices every once in a while when I can. And I can't go out there very much. And so I try to have the biggest impact when I do, not just on skills, but I'm trying to coach the other coaches that are there and say, hey, here's some cues that you could use. But a lot of ways it's teaching how to coach and also teaching the athletes how to be coached. And one of the things that I really learned, as an athlete is that the coach is there to help you succeed, but you're the one on the field making the decisions in the trenches. So I can be sitting there on the long jump runway and I foul by stepping on the board and the coach says, all right, scoot back 6 inches. I go, okay, I will take that as a data point. I'll say, but maybe I was doing some things. What was the wind like on that, and how's it compared to on this rep? Where's the wind at here? And I'm still going to make my own decision. Maybe I scoot up 3 inches or scoot back three
Yeah.
inches or stay where I'm at, because I'm the one who's making that decision. I'm the one who's experiencing that. And so that's, when I take that when I convert that to leadership, I still have to remember that like, it's not me telling somebody what to do. That's still not leadership. That's micromanagement.
Right.
I'm giving them data points. I'm giving them, resources, but still empowering them to say, you're the one making this decision. I can't do it for you. And that's been such a difficult thing for me to say, I can't do it for you. And that has taken so much discipline, on my part, to just watch things done and just have to bite my tongue and say, like, okay, we're trying to do this together though. This isn't the Chase Dalton sign company. It's SiliconSigns, and it has a mind of its own and an identity of its own now, and it's made up of the personalities and the skill level of the people around us, and we need to trust that, and that's how we can truly scale, is if I get out of the way instead of trying to lead them.
Got to be a multiplier, right? Not a bottleneck. Yeah,
Exactly.
beautiful. Okay. So you mentioned you've got a big hill in front of you in 2025 here, executing on that big order. Where do you go from there? So if everything goes to plan, like, where do you see yourself in SiliconSigns in 5 years?
I was a mentor told me a few years ago. I asked him, I said, I want to, our next stop is 8 figures. How do you, what's different? How do we get there? And he gave some great advice, but one thing he said is that every 8-figure company that he's known to get there and stay there, has had an exit plan, an exit strategy. And I didn't believe him. I kind of just yeah, maybe that's just again, I'm the one on the field.
Uh-huh.
But I didn't believe it. I was like, I love what I'm doing, and I want to keep doing it. I just want to know what skills and stuff do I need to get there. But I'm starting to see as we creep up on it, that is actually very sound advice. You don't have to necessarily exit, right? But you have to be a company that somebody finds attractive. Well, what does an attractive company look like? Well, for one, it's something that's not reliant on the founders.
Yeah.
Right. If someone comes in and says, "Oh, you guys are a $10 million company, but Chase does everything himself," he's not buying. I
can't buy it from Chase. It's going to collapse, right?
Exactly. Unless I stay on as an employee for a 10-year retention deal until they exit, and also something that can grow, that has an engine that grows itself, that they can maybe lump together with other companies, or that they can bring on and tack onto their core business and add another vertical that works.
Yep.
And so in 5 years, we would like to be positioned as an obvious acquisition target. The biggest national sign companies are working on the biggest deals, right? Which just makes sense. You can sell $1 million deal, or you can sell $110,000 deals. Which one's going to be easier, right? It's the $1 million deal. There's a lot of work that goes into selling 100 deals versus one. And they're doing it really well, and they're integrating. They're vertically integrated way more than we are, and they're expanded into things that are well beyond just a sign above a door and on the walls and windows of the space. But they are not going after the franchise industry because of those same reasons. Because it's hard to scale. It's hard to build those relationships. It's hard to want to allocate resources and funds and investment into building those relationships, because the payoff just isn't as big as the other deals. But still, an enormous industry. We're talking about an industry that accounts for hundreds of billions of dollars, and they need signs. And the local companies can't handle the work. The big companies don't want it. They're not willing to invest in it, and so it leaves franchises stranded. And that's where we've come to fill this niche. And so if we can do this really well, we have found a way to be profitable in this space. But if we do that really well and capture that market, that does set us up as an obvious acquisition target for some of these big 100, 200, $300 million national sign companies. Say, okay, could we acquire this company and now capture an untouched market almost? And so we are working backwards from an exit. This isn't something that I'm looking to pass on to my son and my grandson and be a 100-year company. This is something we're passionate about. We think it solves a problem, a real problem, that a real hole in the market. And so that's where we'd like to be. So what does that look like? That looks like building systems that are profitable, a sales engine that gets there. And sure, there's revenue targets along the way to get there to help us have an exit that we are proud of, that we're willing to take. But yeah, that's where we're heading.
Awesome. Oh, that's cool. So, you mentioned going all in, and you're trying to move a lot right now. How do you keep your energy, right? Without that life or death situation, right? How do you manage the energy input that you need in the business against all the other demands that are in your life?
That's a tough question to answer right now, because I'm kind of in the middle of this interesting transition and paradigm shift that I've had to have personally, of what does effort mean now? What does energy mean? Because if you talked to me a year ago, it meant typing away furiously on my keyboard and clicking buttons and making calls and solving installation problems and writing up quotes and closing deals. And that felt like I was really moving the needle. And now we're at this point where we've hired very capable, very skilled staff to handle that. And there's no room for me to do that. There's no point. And in fact, these guys are building processes that I don't even know how to run anymore. And so I literally can't, which has been good. Our director of operations, Kate, I told her, I was like, wait, how do you do this? She's like, we changed it, and I didn't tell you for a reason. We don't. It's
not your job. We've been fired.
That's right. That's we need you at the helm. Get back up and do it right. And so it's been interesting. I've almost felt like, wow, I'm not doing enough anymore to help this company, because I'm not up at 4:00 in the morning and working my butt off and working weekends and holidays in that founder grind that kind of got us to that plateau. So yeah, like I said, I don't know the answer yet. I almost feel like am I not doing enough? And there's a level of anxiety that comes with that. Saying if this fails now, I didn't do my part to make sure it didn't. But what the answers that I'm working through and the ponderings that I'm doing, it's answering a few questions. One, what does success look like now? And when I frame it through that lens, is what does success look like? What does progress look like? And what is my part to play in that? What is my job now as a CEO of a company? It's been weird calling myself a CEO, because I've never really felt like that. It's like, what do you mean? I'm actually a project manager. I'm a sales guy. I'm an account manager. I'm not a CEO. But now coming into that role and understanding, what is a CEO? I'm responsible for the culture of the company, the strategic direction of the company. I'm responsible to communicate the vision clearly and often. And I need to make sure that we always have money in the bank to be able to operate, and that we're building the team that can help get us there. It's not my job to close deals anymore. It's my job to help give people the resources and the direction to do that, and maybe the training and advice to do that. So I can jump in at that level and try to help them. But then I'm really working on coming back up and saying, okay, where are we? And always recentering myself. Where are we going? Do we have the right people in place? Do we have the right resources to get there? Are we all pointed at the right thing? And so I've had to realize that, thinking and pondering and journaling, that's work. That's work now. As a CEO, to sit here and strategize, that's work. sitting in meetings with advisors and coaches or with our leadership team. That is real work. That is how I move the needle now. Is to make sure that the vision and direction is communicated clearly, and that they're doing that to the next level of the operation.
Well said. Well said. So I'm curious if you mentioned earlier some advice for somebody who's just getting started. I'm wondering if you'd have any advice for somebody who's kind of sitting where you are now at that crossroads between founder and CEO.
Yeah. I think one of the most, poignant pieces of advice that I've received recently, and that's something that I've been thinking about a lot, is that as an ambitious founder, the goalpost always changes, because you never truly know what you're capable of. From day one, me and James sat down and we're like, all right, what do we want to accomplish this year? And we're like, I think we could do $300,000 in revenue this year. And then we did 800,000 in revenue. And so in that sense, like, the goalpost did change. I mean, as we blew past, 300, we're like, okay, well, we have to have a new goal. What are we working toward now? And it always became this moving target, not just forward, but also, or like toward us, but also further. And I've learned recently that is a recipe for burnout. If you're chasing a finish line that is running away from you just as fast as you're running toward it, then you actually, relatively to the finish line, you never feel like you're moving. And you're putting so much effort into it. And so advice I'd give to somebody else, and, to myself, and that I want to remember always, is that put a stake in the ground, work backwards from that, and hit it, and measure your progress and success against that goalpost, and then set a new goal, and then set a new goal, and get it, and work from that. Don't move it towards you or away from you, because sometimes it's easy when you have control over the goal. Sometimes you can move it. We've moved it toward ourselves. Like, oh, we're not on track for that anymore, so let's let it be that goal. No, miss it. Let it be painful.
Miss it and learn. Yeah.
Yeah. And the thing is, I felt that. Like, like when I look back in my track career, there's three times where I really felt like, okay, here was a really, like, that relate to this experience. One, I wanted to make the world team, the junior world team, and I had to win the national championship or be top 2 to do that when it was my freshman year of college. And I saw the schedule a year in advance, said, I'm going to make that team. And I even put it on the calendar. My mom wanted to schedule a vacation for the family and said, nope, I'm going to be gone July 3rd through the 12th or whatever, 2008. I'm going to be in Poland. And I worked toward it, and I won that national championship, went to the world championships, and it was an incredible experience. Same thing happened my senior year of college. I looked forward. I saw, if I get top 5 at the U.S. championships, I'm going to make this world team, this U.S. team. I'm going to go compete in Germany we're in the U.S. jersey. I got there, and I sacrificed and I suffered to get there. And then on the flip side, in 2016, I wanted to make the Olympics. And as I got closer, I realized that actually was out of reach, but I did change the goalpost, say, okay, I want to be at the trials. I need to be there. That's step 1. And I didn't even make the Olympic trials that year. So I went from getting 5th in the U.S. in 2014 to not even making it to to give myself a chance in 2016. And I got to feel that pain and live with it, and still live with it. And I get to look back and be like, what did I do to miss that? And I could see it. I see the things that I did wrong. And it's important. Like, because I didn't have control over those goalposts, they were set for me. I either got it or I didn't. I was able to either work toward it or fail and see what I did wrong. We have to do that same thing as business owners. Just because we have control over the goalposts, we can't take that for granted. We have to have the discipline to set the goalpost, hit it or miss it, make adjustments, and move forward from there.
Awesome. That's excellent. Well, great, man. We could go on for another hour, but I'm gonna wrap up, and I have a question for you. So I really appreciate you joining me at Untold, and it's been a pleasure talking to you. This was a huge episode with tons of learning. If somebody wanted to know more about SiliconSigns, so a franchisee or is listening to this now and they want to hire you, where do they go?
Yeah, obviously we service a pretty niche market, so I don't expect very many people to fit our ICP or that we'd be solving a problem they're having. But yeah, if you are a franchisor, an emerging franchisor that's trying to set some systems and processes in place, by chance, then yeah, check us out on our website. You can reach out through there. Hit me up on LinkedIn, and reach out. I'll respond there and get you connected to the right people. But yeah, otherwise, if not, I'd love to connect on LinkedIn and help share network and share ideas there. But
awesome. Thanks a ton, Chase. It's been a pleasure. You're an awesome guest. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Take care.